composer is William Grant Still. He was born on May 11th in 1895. Both of his parents were teachers. His mother was Carrie Still and his father was William Still. When he was 3 months old, William's father died, and he and his mother moved to Little Rock, Arkansas to live with his grandmother. And during his childhood, his mom remarried to Charles B. Shepperson, and he and William would go to many performances by orchestra, and that is what got William so interested in music and really enjoyed listening to music. At age 14, William started taking violin lessons, and afterwards he went back and taught himself how to play the clarinet, the saxophone, the oboe, the double bass, the cello, and viola. His grandmother introduced him to African American spirituals by singing them to him, and in his music you can tell that they're very influenced by African American cultures, and some people say that came from his grandmother. William's mother actually wanted him to become a doctor, so he went to Wilberforce University in Ohio, and he went there for 4 years to get a bachelor's degree in science. And on his fourth year, he dropped out, and he married Grace Bundy, who went to Wilberforce, and he ended up going to Oberlin College, and he was very involved in the music part. He made band arrangements, and he was in the string quartet, and while he was going there, he again left school to join the Navy. While he was in the Navy, African Americans were limited to the amount of food that they could have, and so what he would do is he would play the violin, and people would give him food, and so he just would always have extra food. The Harlem Renaissance, also known as the New Negro movement, started about whenever Still got out of the Navy and moved to New York, and it proved that African Americans had a rich and vibrant culture, which was fast becoming a prominent cultural feature of the United States and the world. Still was a firm believer and an active participant in the Harlem Renaissance, and his music showed that with his life. Like, his music was very influenced by African Americans and their struggles and concerns in the society. Some of his accomplishments were he was the first African American to have a major orchestra play his pieces, which was Afro-American Symphony, and he was also the first African American to conduct a leading American orchestra. This song that I'm going to show you is Afro-American, which was his first composition that he did. That was Afro-American, and in the Afro-American Symphony, each movement is accompanied by excerpts from poems by Paul Laurence Dunbar, and what the poems are about are African American struggles, and he uses the poems to influence each movement. Like the second movement is titled Sorrow, the third movement is titled Humor, and the fourth movement is titled Aspiration. A funny story on the third movement, in Kansas City when Carl Kruger was conducting, the crowd got so into the music that he had to stop and restart that whole movement because the crowd was just laughing so hard, and the musicians started laughing. You can it's a Afro American Symphony is a classical piece, and you can tell. But then you also, when the trumpet comes in with the melody, you can tell the jazzy feel to it. William Grant Still was very influential in his time period. He set a way for African Americans by being the first to conduct an orchestra and the first African American to have an orchestra conduct one of his pieces. And a lot of his songs were about African Americans and their struggles and concerns in a society. And African Americans could really relate, and a lot of people liked his music. And he ended up dying in 1978. But that was William Grant Still's life.